Hello everyone and welcome to the first Godtear battle report on the channel. Did an unboxing of most of what you can kind of see on the table here, but this is going to be our first proper battle report. It is not how to play Godtear, it's a more kind of watch and make sure that everything is being learned correctly using the Eternal Glade starter box, which is Nia, which we'll take a look at better in a second, versus Morgan and... wait, or Morgana. No, it's Morgan. I always want to say whichever one I don't, and it's always wrong. But in this case, I actually got it right. It's Morgan. So, we're doing exactly what the rulebook says for a tutorial mission. Just use the two champions, one against the other. A normal game is usually 3-on-3, or 2-on-2 if you want a smaller scale, or 4-on-4 if you want the largest possible. Doing the most basic scenario, which is called Life, where there's 4 god tiers in the middle of the map, which is the objective hexes for the game. So yeah, it's not how to play, but I'm going to quickly also just go over how things work, very basically, just so that if this is your first experience seeing Godtear, you're able to watch along and hopefully enjoy. The gist of it, as described in the unboxing, is that champions, or champion in this case, they're vying for godhood by channeling the energy from the tiers of gods that have fallen onto the land, and the locations are not always like smack dab in the middle. They could be spread around. There's like 6 different scenarios in the rulebook, but this is the most basic one, so the rulebook suggests play this one first. So we'll go over how you actually win a round and how you win the game, then we'll take a look at the models and a general overview of what they can do. So to win a game of Godtear, you have to get to 5 victory points. You get to 5 victory points by winning rounds, and rounds use this part of the map, which is the ladder. So right now it's smack dab in the middle because we don't know who's going first, but whoever gets first turn gets 1 advantage by having it in their half because there's no middle line, and whoever's half it is in at the end of a turn, and a turn is broken into 2 phases, the plot phase and the clash phase, then whoever has the turn number in their half flips it over. That's how many points to get. Turn 1 is worth 1 victory point, turn 2 is worth 2, turn 3 is worth 3, turn 4 is worth 2, and turn 5 is worth 1. So that's how you get to the 5 victory points. The earliest someone can win is turn 3, but if you go backwards and forwards, it could actually go the whole distance. In terms of making this move within a turn, there's a few different things you can do, and I've got the page here just to make sure we're all clear on this. If you knock out an empty champion, you get 4 steps on the ladder towards your side. If you knock out a small follower, like any of these little soldiers here, that's 1 step. Knock out a large follower, which doesn't apply to these heroes, you would move it 2 steps. If you make a claim action, which is putting down your banner on a god tier, you get 1. And if you have your banner on an objective hex at the end of the turn, it's 4. So that's the same value as killing a champion. Now, depending on which champion type you have, they get bonus steps on the ladder for doing certain actions. Slayers, which Morgan is, gets an extra 1 for killing a champion. Well, you don't kill a champion, they're immortal, but you can knock them out for a round. Maelstroms get a bonus for every little follower or large follower they take out. Shapers, which Nia is, gets an extra point just for putting the banner down on an objective hex. And Guardians get a bonus point if their banner is still on an objective hex at the end of a round. So the only 2 that matter for this one are Slayers and Shapers. But I think that about covers it beyond the specifics of each side. So yeah, let's go over the sides. So apologies for the glare, but this is Nia, the Shaper. This is her banner, and these are her 3 quartzlings. So this is how a playboard for a champion and their followers is set up. In the middle you just have their passives and their ultimate. Once you use your ultimate, you flip it over because it's gone, and then it's just listing what your champion type does, in her case Shaper, so she gets a bonus step if she puts down her objective hex. She also has a passive called Rock Concert. If all 3 quartzlings are on the battlefield when she activates, she gets an additional action in her activation, so she can do 3 things instead of 2. I think I forgot to mention it's 2 actions per phase. And you can do 2 skills, as in like 2 abilities on a card, but you can't do the same one twice. So this is how a basic card is set up. Movement, dodge, which is what you have to equal or beat to land a hit, defense, which is what's taken off the damage, and HP. And then you've got different abilities that we'll go over when and if they're used. This symbol here means it's plot phase. Once our plot phase is done, you flip, it becomes like a sword and an axe or something hitting each other. This is the clash phase, stats change, and you do more damage. Like the plot phase is mostly for moving, buffing, and debuffing. And that also applies to the minion card. That's the plot phase, but then once they're done, oops, you'd flip it over. Their abilities and whatnot change. For instance, they can't just move naturally on their clash side. The thing in the top right is how much the maximum unit has, so that's 3 for Nia. And that about covers it, so let's go take a look at her opponent. It's very unfortunate about the glare on the table. I think I know why nobody uses the Eternal Glade one. It's because the hex outlines are kind of hard to see, but also, as it turns out, reflects a lot of light. So anyway, this is Morrigan. She's an ice-themed undead zombie thing. She has 5 followers. That's her banner there. And again, the cards work the same. Her ult is there. Her ult is Flash Freeze. We'll cover that if she uses it. Then you've got her plot phase actions, and then you flip the card, and that's her clash phase actions. Remember, her goal for bonus points is to kill Nia. That doesn't mean she has to ignore everything else. She can still put her banner down. She can still defend her banner. It's just she gets a bonus point if, very specifically, she kills Nia. Killing her followers will still just get like 1 point as well. And the same with the Cold Bones. They've got a maximum squad size of 5. That's important because you can replenish via a a recruit action to get them back as and when they die. So we're going to get set up for deployment and see who's going first. So we've got things set up. Nia is right here on this end of the board. Morrigan is on this end of the board. Morrigan won the roll off. There's no specific way listed in the rulebook to decide who goes first. Just rolled 4 dice and whoever got the most hits, including doubles. So that means that the ladder starts 1 in favour of Morrigan, and we go into the plot phase for battle round 1. Now, plot phases, one side, imagine you had 3 champions and 3 sets of followers, fully activates, and then the other side fully activates. In the clash phase, however, you alternate between heroes and followers for each side. So we might cover just like a movement just to show how it works, but then we'll just go back to our usual style of kind of recapping, I think, but we'll see. So to get the battle round 1 started, we're going to cover Morrigan's turn, but you'll notice that the followers moved as well. That's because for one of her actions, and we're just going to have her card here for reference to show it works, she did forward minions. So what these mean is that's range, so that's within 4 hexes, and the next one is how many dice you roll to get the hit, and then how many dice you roll for damage, but that doesn't apply here. Move each cold bones that is within range up to 2 hexes. That was all of them. So these 2 cold bones move there, those 3 move there. You can never have more than 3 minions, small minions, in a hex. And I forgot to mention, but unless otherwise stated, minions / followers can't step on Godtears. Only the big champions can. So our other action was just to move forwards 2, and that's it. That's our 2 actions done. So this then flips over, ready for the clash phase when the clash phase starts. But her cold bones also have to activate now as well. So for the cold bones, first of all, they use So Cool Mistress, where as long as Morrigan is in range, they can choose between giving her a accuracy boon or a movement boon, and a boon is just one of these things from the box. You flip it over and it's actually a negative, but this is a positive. So picked accuracy, that just goes above her, and it has to be used the next time she launches an attack. If you have a boon or a blight, you don't get to choose, it just gets used. So that is an accuracy blight, boon rather, that will apply to her next attack. Then they just moved normally, and they only get to move 1, so they just moved 1 hex forward each, and then that's it. That is the plot phase done for that side. It then immediately switches over to Nia for her plot phase, but again, obviously, if there was multiple champions, they would all do their plot phase first. So Nia went first for this side, and she has much less movement. She's only got movement 1, so her first action was to move 1, and then her second action was to use March, which gives her an additional 1 move. So she did move 2, but it took 2 of her actions. Now, however, her passive kicked in, because the 3 quartzlings are on the table when she activated. She gets a 3rd action, so she used Meditate to also give herself accuracy boon. So that'll be on her card over there. Now it's the quartzlings, why do I want to call them quarterlings? I don't know. To end the plot phase for battle round 1. So the quartzlings just move forwards for 2 as 1 action, and then there's nothing else for them to do with their other action. They can't do another move, so that's it. Worth also pointing out, though, something forgot to mention, planting your banner can only be done in the plot phase. So Nia has missed her opportunity to do it this turn, but, well, outside of any special abilities that say specifically you can do it in the clash phase. So that is it, because there's only 1 champion each side. The plot phase for battle round 1 is done. At this point we go to the clash phase, and it's over to Morrigan, because it was her turn 1, to pick either the cold bones or the lady herself, and then alternating. So this is where it switches from whole team movements to alternating movements. So the cold bones were the first ones to activate in the clash phase. First action was a move, so even though they're separated, they still count as a unit that has activated. So they moved 1 in the clash phase, so there and there. Then they used Intense Cold to give themselves a damage buff. And again, this applies to both units, but if one of them uses it for an attack action, which they're not doing this turn, but next turn, it gets used up immediately. So that is gone. Well, it's on their card until it gets used, but say the set of 2 did an attack, it's gone. The set of 3 using attack, it's gone, whichever one goes first. So now it goes over to Nia to either activate herself or the Quartzlings, not Morrigan. So let's see what happens. So the Quartzlings activated, and we're going to go over their turn with the help of dice and cards just to show how it happened. So their first action was to use Rolling Stones. Each Quartzling may move up to 3 hexes, but it has to be in a straight line. So this one just moved forward 1, these 2 each forward 1 as well. That was the first action. Second action was Stone's Throw, which this one used on that unit of Cold Bones. So the way this works, you can have a, well, easier if I bring this up here, I think. So this is the table that matters. It has to be on a target within 2 hexes, which the Cold Bones were. And then depending on the number of Quartzlings in your hex, which is just 1 because they're all in separate ones, you use the top line. If there was 2, you would use the middle line. If there was 3, you would use the bottom line, because 3 is the max unit size. So it would go from a 4 accuracy and a 4 damage to a 5-4 and then a 5-5. Because it was just 1 Quartzling, it's a 4-4, so 4 dice rolled for accuracy, looking to equal or beat their dodge. As you can see, the roll was 3 blanks and a single hit. Cold Bones have a dodge of 2, so nothing was done. So that's just, could have showed off how damage and whatnot worked if the hit landed, but you know how dice be. So now Morrigan has to activate. So Morrigan has activated, and despite these dice all having a 50-50 chance of succeeding, you wouldn't think that based on these rolls. So first of all, she did a move action. Her move is 2 in the clash phase. Boom boom onto the Godtear because she's a champion, she can stand on it. Then she used Ice Blade on this little Quartzling right there. It's a 5 dice attack, although because of her accuracy buff it actually became 6. That's just there to show it was used. There was an additional blank. Got 2 however, and the dodge of a Quartzling is 2, and you have to equal or beat it, so it did land. Then it's 5 dice for damage, and it was 1 damage, and the armor of a Quartzling is 4. They're pretty tanky. So let's just do an imaginary second and third roll. So let's say that was a damage roll, that was 3, so it still was not enough to kill them. Another one, that would have been enough, because that beats, or sorry, that equals, and not only equals, it beats their armor, and they only have 1 HP, so it would have killed them outright. I think it's only heroes and large followers who have more than 1 HP, but I could be wrong about that. So she didn't manage to do anything. If she had managed to kill the follower, 1 more step on the ladder, and that is the accuracy buff used up as well. So now it's over to Nia to end off battle round 1. So in the clash phase, Nia puts on a bit of a spurt and her movement becomes 2. So her first action was to move 2 to where you can see her there. Then she did, what's it called, Blinding Light, range 2, accuracy 4, damage 5 attack, which also if you succeed in hitting does minus accuracy as a blight. So she did it on the 2 cold bones there because they're within 2. That's her hit roll. She had to equal or beat 2, so she got it. So they now have that applied to their unit, which is minus accuracy on their next attack, so that's on their card. Then she rolled for damage, and cold bones have armor 3, and she only got 2. So no damage, but it does say hit effect. It doesn't say damage effect, so presumably the debuff still applies. And that does take us, because again there's only 1 champion versus 1 champion, to the end of battle round 1. That's the end of the clash phase for it. So that means we go over to the ladder here, and the only way it moved is from having first turn advantage. So Morrigan scores that, and she gets 1 point on the board of the 5 she needs. And then the number 2 comes over here, and I need to double check how it's decided who goes first in battle round 2. So we have entered the plot phase for battle round 2, and the way you decide who goes first on the next turn is that whoever lost the round gets to choose whether or not they go first or second. Nia has chosen to go first, so the ladder starts 1 in her favour, and for her actions she popped her ult to start with, so that's why I have this card here for us to look at it. So it's a Geode, it's called. Plot phase only, which it's in. Choose a Quartzling that is the only model in its hex and is adjacent to an objective hex. There was a Quartzling right there. Remove the Quartzling and replace it with an objective hex, so that's why there is now a new Godtear right there. And if Nia is within 2 hexes of that, which she was here, she can get a free claim action on that hex. So her banner has been placed there. So That is 1 for placing her banner, but because she is a shaper, it then moves again because she gets a bonus point for doing a claim action. So that is giving her a bit of like leeway on the ladder for her side. You then flip this card over, that's the ult gone, it's just her passives now, and it's the Shaper champion that just got her the extra point. Her other action was simply to use her movement action to move a bit closer to these 2 cold bones over here. Now it's over to her Quartzlings for their plot phase activation. So we will go over the Quartzlings turn in a second, but just to be clear, Nia did technically have a third action because when her activation started, all 3 Quartzlings were on the field, so her passive kicked in. However, there's nothing else for her to do. She has no offensive stuff on her plot side. She can move buffs around, but there wasn't really a point, so an action wasn't used. And using the ult is an action, just so that's clear as well. So for the Quartzlings, the first thing they did was a recruit action. To get a Quartzling back on the field, you have to place it adjacent to your champion. So Mr. Man who just sacrificed himself is returned. He is there, within a hex. And then this Quartzling attacked Morrigan with Shimmer, which does no damage, but if you land a hit, it gives a minus move blight, which is succeeded. It actually did a, well, better than perfect roll. So that is applied to Morrigan. That's over there on her card. And now it's over to the plot phase for the Cold Bones and Morrigan. So as we go to Morrigan's turn, totally forgot what her passive is. Her passive is that boons count for +2, not +1. So when she was rolling dice the last turn, should have been an extra die in there for it being +2. Too late now, but it was noticed and just corrected now. So anyway, she did a move action as her first action of the plot phase. Usually 2, but brought down to 1 thanks to the debuff. So she just moved sideways. Then she did a Frosty Glare on Nia to try and give a minus debuff blight to her defense. Needed to beat 4. Nia's good at dodging, got a 3. So did not land anything. And with that, it's over to the Cold Bones. So the Cold Bones that I swear I've called Cold Ones at least once didn't move on their turn. They instead did So Cool Mistress to give Morrigan a movement buff. That is a dodge icon. That is entirely the wrong icon. It is a movement buff they've given her though. That will be corrected in a second. Then they did Chill Out on the Quartzlings and applied a minus attack on, well, it's a 1 accuracy hit roll. However, you get +1 die for each adjacent Cold Bone. So this unit did it on that Quartzling, so it was 3 they actually rolled and just had to beat 2, so it did. And with that, we are into the clash phase for Battle Round 2. So for Nia's clash phase, she stayed still and did Blinding Light on the cold ones in front of her, got through the dodge roll but did not do any damage, equaled their armour. For her second action, she used Crystal Glare, which lets her pick a Blight on anyone within 2 and place it on an enemy within 2. So she took the attack down from the Quartzlings and put it on Morrigan before she inevitably activates and tries to murder her. So Morrigan did activate and got a question. If you have an attack down Blight and you fail your hit roll, you didn't get to the damage part of the attack, so does that mean the attack Blight is not gone? Playing it as that, but honestly not sure. So from where Morrigan was, she moved and crushed the banner, so that's 4 points denied at the end of the turn, although it might not matter at this point, for this round anyway. Then tried to do a Frost Blade, or whatever, Ice Blade, sorry, on Nia. Did not get past her amazing dodge, which is a shame. So now it is over to the Quartzlings. So as we go into the Quartzlings actions, just to make sure it's clear, when Nia's banner got crushed, the passive of the Quartzlings could have kicked in if they weren't at maximum capacity. If they had been missing 1 or more of them, you get a free recruit for her banner being crushed. But it didn't apply because they're all there. So anyway, they only use 1 action because there's nothing else for them to do. This one chucked a stone at these cold ones, and finally a damage roll actually got through. This is a damage roll. It was very good. So 1 cold one died because they only have 1 HP, and that moved the ladder down 1 for killing a small follower. So now it is over to the Cold Bones to end off Battle Round 2, with it looking very safe in Nia's part of the ladder. So when a Cold One dies, they actually inflict a dodge blight on whatever killed them. So when that Cold One died, it inflicted it, I can't want to say boon when it's a blight. The blight on the Quartzlings, which matters because then they had that. When these 3, for their action, they buffed the unit with attack up, Then they did Icicle, or whatever it's called. What is it called? Snowball fight. With 3 of them in the square, and they murdered the Quartzling that was on that square. He is dead, which moved the ladder back 1 towards Morgan, but that is the end of the turn. It's well and truly in Nia's portion, so Nia has scored 2 victory points, meaning as we go into the 3rd battle round, which is the highest value one, so it's the one people want to win, it's 2-1 to Nia, but Nia has burned her ult. So we'll see how that affects things once Morgan decides whether or not she's going 1st or 2nd. Things are getting real at the start of battle round 3. The plot phase, Morgan has decided to go first, and for her first action she used her ult, which we have here for you. So that is Flash Freeze. All enemies within range gain the blights for dodge and movement, and it's within 3. So Nia and the Quartzlings have all those blights this turn, they're going to enjoy that. And then for her second action in the plot phase, she placed her banner. So her banner is there, and that moves the ladder 1 additional point. So it's in her favour. That flips over though, her ult is gone, and now the Cold Bones get to do their plot phase. Real simple plot phase for the Cold Ones. They recruited to get back up to full strength with the other one. Oh, no, actually, no, he couldn't. He would have to appear next to Morrigan. So I guess, smack dab there, the skeleton is recruited. And then they did So Cool Mistress to give Morrigan the accuracy buff. So now it's over to Nia and the Quartzlings. So there's a little bit of an interesting rules interaction here for Nia's activation, because she has the Blight for movement, and her movement in the plot phase is 1. So if she was to use up one of her 2 actions as an advance, then it's technically, oh, didn't advance, but it's movement 0, done, do another thing. Check the wording for the Blight, and it specifically says it's an advance action, but that matters because she has a rule on her plot side called March, which we used in the other round there, which gives her a movement of 1. So she used March as her first action to move on to Morgan's banner and crush it, to remove it, and then for her second action she used a claim to put down her banner, and that scored 2, and that brought it back just barely into our half of the ladder. And that's important because there was no third action for her because one of the Quartzlings is dead. So I guess technically couldn't the Quartzlings have activated first and recruited, and then her activated, and then she would have her 3 actions? But if so, why wouldn't... Well, I guess the reason why that is that way is because you can only recruit 1, and what if 2 or all 3 were dead? Yeah, that would have been a better way to do that, but oh well. Anyway, so she still has the movement debuff when she does eventually do a normal move, which would potentially be in the clash phase. But for now, the banner is down, she has majority of the Quartzlings, the 2 that are alive anyway get to do something now. So the Quartzlings did a recruit action, and the new one has popped up right there, and then they did Shimmer on Morgan to apply a negative debuff to movement. She's actually building up now. That's she's got the Blights for movement and attack, and the Boon for accuracy, which is +2 for her, not +1. And I guess that'll matter as we now go into the clash phase with either Morgan or the Cold Bones activating. So for Morrigan's turn, she used Snowball's Chance, first of all, which is glaring, I apologise. It's a 1 dice hit roll, and if it does eventually roll to do damage, it insta-kills. So she was trying to do it on Nia, and the reason for that is she had the accuracy buff, so it was actually 3 dice she was rolling for attack, and Nia had the Blight to dodge, so only needed to beat 3, not 4, but rolled blanks. So it doesn't matter. It would have been, what, how many dice does it roll for damage? 2 dice for damage? I'm curious, would it have done anything? It would have needed to beat 2, so that wouldn't have been enough. It's called Snowball's Chance for a reason. So anyway, let's come back around here. So for Morrigan's other action, she did not move. She used her Ice Blade on the Quartzling. It automatically does 1 damage if you succeed on the hit roll if the enemy has certain blights. Defense, movement, or dodge. Either way, it was definitely one of the ones the Quartzlings had. So that insta-killed the Quartzling and moved the ladder 1 back in favour over there. So now, Nia or the Quartzlings. Nia's clash phase activated. She stayed where she was. She did Erosion on the Cold Bone to her north there to give it a negative to its armour value, and it succeeded. Then she just did Blinding Light to try and do damage, just had to get 1 damage through that defence, which was lowered to 2 thanks to the Blight. Succeeded, took it out, and that moved the ladder 1 point back in favour of Nia. So it's going backwards and forwards across the important line. So now it's over to the Cold Ones, who are presumably just going to try and kill a Quartzling. So for the Cold Ones' turn, they buffed their damage again, or their attack, and then tried to do the 3 set there, against the Quartzlings, doing their snowball fight, and whiffed on the damage. Only got 3, and they've got armor of 4. They're pretty tough, the Quartzlings. And regardless of whether they killed the Quartzling or not, once the Quartzlings, well, the Quartzlings don't need to do anything, because once it goes into the end phase, that being there, without Morgan crushing it, means that the ladder goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and even if the Cold Ones had killed a Quartzling, it'd be back by 1. So there is no way to stop Nia winning this round, and round 3 is worth 3 points, and the 3 plus the 2 she already has takes Nia at the end of battle round 3 to the victory position. So that was a little short as the first game of Godtear, but obviously it was because it was one champion versus one champion. I'm sure things were done wrong, feel free to point them out. I definitely forgot to mention a couple of times where blights and boons were used up. I think it was done rightly, but just forgot to mention when it was done on moves or dodge rolls, etc. But yeah, the plan for this going ahead, if you enjoyed, please do let me know. And another test game will be done, except this time it will be 2 champions versus 2 champions of some variety, different classes potentially, with Nia and Morgan still there, and then eventually working way up to a regular size game, which is 3 champions against 3 champions. Might do the same scenario next time, might not, see what the rulebook suggests. But yeah, that's Godtear, that's how it works. It's surprisingly fun. It's surprisingly tactical rather, because I watched this being played a little bit, and I was like, well, don't they all just like clump in the centre and murder each other? That's kind of true for this scenario, but at the same time, banners matter more to most of the classes. It's only slayers who go for kills. Morgan also doesn't seem particularly good at getting kills, which is weird when that's her thing, against minions or heroes. Although Nia is very evasive, that's kind of her thing, and her Quartzlings are surprisingly tough with 4 armor. So, who knows. But yeah, let me know what you think of Godtear, what you would like to see. I think we'll change the board, because I don't think this is a great board, because you can barely see some of the hexes. Now I know why no one ever uses this one. We'll use the desert or something else next time. But thank you for watching, and see you in the future for some more. Until then, ta-ta for now.